Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for your patience. My name is London Breed. I'm acting mayor for the City and County of San Francisco, and today I'm joined by our police chief, Chief Bill Scott, and our fire chief, Joanne Hayes-White, and other members of our emergency personnel here in the City and County of San Francisco. We all know that so many people come from all over to celebrate New Year's Eve in San Francisco. It's such an amazing place, and there will be a number of celebrations all over the place, including the fireworks at Pier 14, block party in Potrero Hill, the Palace of Fine Arts. There'll be an amazing event there, parties and other events in hotels and places downtown. So people will be everywhere in this city bringing in the new year. But what is most important to us is that we make sure that everyone is safe. We want everyone to have a wonderful and an amazing time, but we want to make sure that each and every person in our city gets home safe or gets back to their respective locations safe. So that's what this is all about. We here in the city will be activating our emergency operations center, and Chief Hayes-White will talk a little bit more about that later. But we are deploying more emergency personnel, more ambulances and other EMS services will be out there.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Fox News Now. This Friday afternoon we are getting live images from the Fox affiliate in Houston of an apartment fire. Trying to get some more information, but I'm going to bring that up for you right now live. There is no audio to this video. Again, there is no audio to this video. Again, everybody, welcome back to Fox News Now. Thanks so much for being with us this Friday afternoon. You were looking at live images from their version of Skyfox in Houston. Again, there's no sound of this video, and we have no control over the images, so we will stay on this as long as we can. We are not getting any reports of injuries or deaths at this time, but if you're familiar with Northwest Harris County in Texas, we're told this is the 8400 block of Easton Commons near State Highway 6. Certainly some sad video coming out of Harris County in Texas. Again, this is the Houston, Texas area. Looks like at least a few apartments lost here. There's no audio to this video, and we also don't have any control over the images, so just wanted to let you all know. Thanks for watching Fox News Now. For those of you just joining Fox News Now this afternoon, you were looking at live footage of an apartment fire in Harris County. We're being told that the Cy-Fair Voluntary Fire Department is battling this 2-alarm apartment fire in Northwest Harris County. If you're familiar with the area, it's the 8400 block of Easton Commons near State Highway 6. All right, everybody, looks like their version of Skyfox out there is leaving. So I have a picture of what we're being told is possibly a trolley crash in Boston. So I'm gonna bring that to you. Trolley's with an E, right? Money Goals is already in, waiting for the fire update. Money Goals is already there. Fire update's not in yet. It's definitely a lot of officers on scene there. All right, everybody, just want to let you know we are unsure what is happening here exactly in Boston, but these are live images. We're hearing reports of a possible trolley crash. You can definitely see the first responders on scene, but from looking at this myself, I can't see any like wreckage, or I don't even see any of the trolleys that look like they have any dents in them or anything of that sort. But we're continuing to monitor it for you, and then we will get back to playing the San Francisco New Year's Eve press conference that they just held, and we will get on to the latest about the Michigan snow pileup. All right, everybody, just want to let you know I am looking on the Twitter page for the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority. It appears that they're saying shuttle buses, which is what you're seeing here, are replacing the Mattapan, not sure if I'm saying that right, Mattapan trolley service in both directions due to a trolley accident near Cedar Grove. Still not getting details on exactly how this crash happened or about any injuries. We'll keep taking a look at these live images. Again, there's no audio and we don't have any control over them. Just want to let you know. You can tell whatever happened between these trolley cars is certainly disrupting service for commuters right now, and it looks awfully cold in Boston. You can see the snow on the ground and everybody bundled up. Hey, welcome to Fox News Now. If you're just joining us, what you're looking at are live images out of the Boston area. We're told that there was a crash involving the Mattapan trolley service, so shuttle buses are now taking passengers where they need to go. You can tell it is very chilly there. It looks like they might be, I don't know if that surrounds a cemetery, but that definitely looks like tombstones to me. I wanted to bring this to you guys because it's live and it's happening now, but we also have happening now an Austin Police Department press conference regarding their preparations for New Year's Eve. I can also, actually that just ended, and then I can take you guys back to the San Francisco New Year's Eve preps as well. So go ahead and feel free to comment. Let me know what you'd like for me to do. All right, everybody, while we keep an eye on this, since there's no audio with their version of Skyfox out of the Boston area, I'm going to play the press conference from the Michigan car pileup. So again, you're going to be watching both at the same time. Going to keep this shot up since it doesn't have any audio, and then I'm going to play for you the brief press conference they had on the Michigan car pileup. Thanks so much for watching Fox News Now.
You look good. You always do, you know. You guys ready?
See, Evan. Yeah, I'm good over here.
Well, let's just get an audio check for everybody. Could we have you say and spell your first and last, and also your title?
Yes, Dave Wipa, Muskegon Township Police.
And you're the chief. I guess let's just start from the top. About 2 o'clock, right? You got this pileup. What happened?
Well, the first call came in at 1:42 of a car spun out, and as you can imagine, it was whiteout conditions out here. It just started a chain reaction. And I think when it was all said and done, I think we counted about 40 cars involved in our area. There were certainly some more to the north of Holton Road, but that was the Sheriff's Department and the State Police jurisdiction.
So they had even more pileups north of here, from without out of our eyesight.
Well, certainly cars in the ditch. I'm not sure what type of if there are any crashes involved, but because of the crash south of Holton Road, they had some more slide-offs north of here.
Obviously, biggest concern, injuries. Idea on if anybody was hurt, how many people were hurt?
Well, amazingly, only 3 people were reported to have some injuries. They were taken by ambulance to one of our local hospitals. I think most of them were minor injuries, though.
Nobody looking at any life-threatening injuries or anything of that nature?
Not that I know of. I don't think we have any life-threatening injuries at all.
Okay. So between there to Holton, obviously, some 40 cars. I mean, how do you describe the scene when you came upon it?
Well, I was probably one of the last ones to get here. We had probably 15 officers involved with trying to clean the mess up. When I got here, it was just chaotic. As you can imagine, we have 3 lanes here southbound. All it takes is one, and that's what started the whole thing. So,
yeah. Surprised that only minor injuries?
Very surprised. Very surprised. There was one ambulance that showed up for 3 folks that were in the same vehicle. They got checked out at a local hospital.
So just one vehicle where people were injured? 3 people from one vehicle?
Yes.
Wow, okay. In terms of the road, obviously they're still trying to clean up. There's still debris. Where is it shut down right now, and how long do you anticipate that shutdown to continue?
Well, the shutdown was at Holton Road, just north of Holton Road, where they were having cars exit. Right now, I think the road commission was just called just a few minutes ago to come through here. Officers are going to let the road commission come through and clean the road off, and then they're going to open up the highway. So momentarily.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, kind of remarkable as you kind of said. I mean, you're surprised it wasn't worse. I mean, you see how these things happen, and you said it only takes one, but remarkably more people weren't hurt.
That's correct. We can't believe it ourselves. We were just talking about that only 3 people from one vehicle had received some injuries. Probably because people weren't going that fast when the pileup started. Thank goodness that was the case. Only 3.
Do you have any idea kind of what started it? I mean, was it just someone who slid off?
Well, it was reported up here by one of our officers that the visibility was down to nearly right in front of them. You couldn't see a foot in front of you. And of course, when the heavy snow was coming down, cars were kicking up the snow, which created a whiteout. And we believe somebody lost control, which started the chain reaction.
Anybody else?
Chief, a couple of these just now in the last few days, 31, and just this lake effect. I mean, just any kind of warning or caution. Now, this is the second one. We're getting lucky with no injuries, but...
Yeah, the only thing we can say to people is you got to take it slow. When people get on the highway, they think because it's 70 miles an hour that they can do 70 miles an hour. It's just like anything else. You got to drive to the road conditions. The highway is extremely icy. If you were to step on it right now, you'd probably fall down. That's how icy it is. So I would caution everybody to keep it slow. If that means going 25 miles an hour, that means going 25 miles an hour.
And lastly, I'm thinking there was a state cruiser impacted, hit. Was that in your jurisdiction up the roadways? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I didn't get any information on that.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming out for us.
All right, everybody. P-Law Aries here with you. All right, everybody. I hit the microphone button, but I don't know if it worked or not. But anyway, good afternoon. Hope you all are doing well this awesome Friday before the New Year's. Feel free to let me know where you're watching from, how you heard about our stream. Remember, when you see me reaching and bending and that sort of stuff, it's because I need to control everything here on this set. So I would love to be able to, look directly at the camera at all times. But, got to control everything here. So it's a pretty expansive set, too. Anywho, yeah, I like to ask you questions. I like to get to know you guys, so feel free to let me know where you guys are watching. I actually wanted to show you footage of the car pileup in Michigan, what we just got the press conference on. So let's look at that really quickly. There is a little sound to this. Again, these are not live images. This was recorded a little bit ago. But you can see several of the vehicles there stuck on the side. They said when all was said and done, they believe 40 vehicles were involved in this, so I'll let you all know. Just a great reminder to stay safe on the roads, especially in cold, icy, snowy weather. You know, if you have snow cables or chains and you live in an environment like this, they might be a good idea to put on. You see several wrecked vehicles here, a couple tow trucks, making sure, you know, they said that only 3 people had minor injuries. So that is the little bit of good news out of this. All right, everybody, just wanted to show you that for a little bit following the press conference that we just aired, giving the latest details. Again, if you're just joining us, authorities are saying that they believe up to 40 cars were involved in that pileup there in Michigan, and they definitely ask drivers pay attention and stay safe in conditions like that. Snow, ice, even sometimes rain can be very dangerous, so just be prepared and pack your patience and take things a little bit slower than usual. Hey, one of the major stories of the day, of course, it broke last night and then we were following it this morning and we're still talking about it right now, is the fatal apartment fire in New York City. It was actually in the Bronx. It was a 5-story apartment building. The fire moved so quickly that 12 people died, and it was a case where, you know, fire officials remind people to close your door behind you when you're evacuating from a fire, that it can certainly help from the spreading of the fire. But we just got the latest story out of there, so we're going to play that for you.
This loss is unprecedented.
A community in mourning after a fast-moving fire kills 12 people in this Bronx apartment building. The New York Fire Commissioner says it was started by a child who was playing with a stove.
Started from a young boy, 3.5 years old, playing with the burners on the stove.
The boy's mother heard him scream, saw the flames, and ran outside with him and his sister. The front door was left open, and that caused the fire to quickly spread.
Fire travels up. The stairway acted like a chimney. It took the fire so quickly upstairs that people had very little time to react. They couldn't get back down the stairs.
They couldn't escape. There were just 2 people, my sister and the baby, 8 months old. The smoke, I guess, overcame her. Everything happened so quick.
Other residents were forced onto the fire escape, waiting for help.
You say you were on the fire escape for half an hour?
Yeah, on top. Why? Because even though the firemen were there, but they put the ladder, you know, we are on the 3rd floor, they have to take the kids one after the other.
Literally screaming, and that's how we knew it was trouble, because people were screaming, fire, help, fire, help. We knew it was trouble.
But even after escaping safely, survivors faced another life-threatening challenge, the bitter cold. Many of them had no coats. One man ran out in his long johns with no socks or shoes.
It is the time of year where people celebrate, and certainly here we have people who've lost their lives, lost their homes, lost everything.
In New York, Rich Dennis.
Certainly certainly some sad news there out of New York, the Bronx area. You could just hear, you know, the people who were lucky enough to get out safely. Once they were outside, they still had to deal with brutal cold temperatures. Many of them were not prepared to face them. Well, again, remember, I like to get to know those of you who are watching Fox News Now. Feel free to let us know where you're watching from, how you found our stream, and if you're a first timer here on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. That way, anytime we go live, you can be alerted to what is going on. Well, I want to show you all Fox 10 Phoenix's Tom Fergus shot a News Now exclusive regarding the Fiesta Bowl parade, so I want to air that for you all.
Just south of downtown, I'm in the APS yard, and check out this float that we have. This is part of the Fiesta Bowl parade. It's the National Bank of Arizona, the main sponsor of the parade, and there's going to be a dozen floats at this year's parade. And look who I got with me, the big cheese here, the chairman of the Fiesta Bowl parade, Brian Bednar. Brian, tell me about how long it took for you to plan for something this enormous.
You know, it takes about a year. So once the parade is over the previous year, we kind of break it down and do analysis and start tweaking it for the next year. So it takes about a year.
Yeah, you've got 18 balloons, a couple of new balloons. You got a dozen bands. Is it 14 bands, I think, including the colleges that are playing in the game?
Absolutely. We always love to have the college bands that they can come, and this year they can. We'll get them through the parade early because they got to get out to the game at 2 o'clock. So
yeah, so University of Washington, the Penn State band, they're going to be out there. That's going to be a lot of fun. You got a dozen floats. One thing I thought was cool we were talking about is you have like a pre-parade event.
We do a pre-parade, so that's about an hour before, and there's about 100 cars that go the opposite direction of the parade.
Hot rods and whatnot?
Hot rods, all kinds of different cars, and so it should be really, really cool.
Yeah. So if I were to come out here with my family, what do you suggest we do in terms of getting here on time? Where should I set up the whole thing?
You know, the parade route is about 2 miles long, so all along the parade route there's some reserved seating, but I believe that's already sold out. But bring your blankets, come warm. It's going to be chilly, so come down and have a great time.
Yeah, it's going to be sunny too. I think you might want to bring your sunscreen as well. Check out this this fire truck. There'll be a few of those out there. There'll be a lot of motorcycles out there. Of course, they'll have Miss Arizona and Mrs. Arizona. The donor's going to be part of the deal too. He's coming in on a horse. There's a lot of horses in this parade.
There's going to be a lot of horses as well. What's a parade without some horses, right? But Shane Doan will be actually on a horse, the Grand Marshal, and something very unique we never had before, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, 4,200 participants. I can't even imagine. Let's talk about the volunteers. You couldn't do this without the volunteers.
We could not do this without volunteers. So we have some incredible volunteers that come out every year for us, and so we really appreciate all their help and support. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to be totally grooving on the flyover. Let's talk about that. Those F-35s out of Luke. I have been out there on the tarmac standing next to them. It's going to be fantastic to see them in motion. First thing, so I was suggesting everybody get their phone ready. So what time will they actually be flying over all of us?
They're going to be flying over around 9:04 in the morning, so you'll hear them. They're pretty loud, so get.
Oh, absolutely. That's for sure. How long do you think a parade like this is going to take?
It'll probably take about 2 hours long. We've got 103 entries, and so it'll take about 2 hours to get everybody through and things like that.
You got a lot of honor guards and drill teams and drum corps. It's just going to be a spectacle, isn't it? And you also have little Cub. Don't forget Cub Scout Pack 6 is going to be out there as well.
You can't forget the Cub Scouts. Absolutely, they come every year and they help us an awful lot. So we have a lot of units.
Yeah, 103 entries. Brian, congratulations on putting another one together this year. The 47th annual Fiesta Parade. It's going to be a lot of fun. And like I said, the University of Washington band's going to be out there. The Penn State band's going to be out there, and a bunch of other bands. Bring your camera, look for that flyover. Say hello to Donor for me. He's going to be out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bring the family. They say there will probably be about 100,000 people lined up to watch this parade. It should be a lot of fun, guys. Back to you.
Hey, Tom, thanks so much for that report. It's so awesome to see him in action because I'm going to share a little personal story with you guys. When I was actually in journalism school, Tom Fergus there, the man you just saw in that report, was actually one of my professors. He taught me to be what's called a multimedia journalist. It is somebody who films, shoots their own stories with cameras and then edits them and then fronts them on air, whether it's a look live, some people call them as lives, or a stand-up, that sort of thing. So learned a lot from him, and it's certainly still nice to not just see his work, but be working with him here at Fox 10 Phoenix. And we always appreciate all of the wonderful reporters and photographers that help us with content here at Fox News Now. certainly something that we appreciate. Well, are you gearing up for New Year's? If so, what are you planning on doing and where are you planning on doing it? You know, I always like to hear these sorts of things. We like to keep in touch with you all. If you don't already, please like us on Facebook, Fox 10 News Now, and then we're also on Twitter. And, you know, myself and Mike Page, we're on social media as well. We like to interact, so, you know, let's get something going. Hey, I want to show you guys a live shot because it's been a little bit. Take a look here. You are looking at our nation's capital. Looks like the sun is setting there. It's been kind of cloudy there all week, so definitely interesting to keep an eye on there. Well, our Liz Kodalik also shot something for News Now. Any of you have Powerball fever? I've heard the jackpot's pretty high, something above like 300 million or something of that sort. Anyway, seems like Arizonans have it. So let's take a listen to her report.
2 big drawings for the jackpot in 2 days. The Mega Millions, that is tonight, $306 million up for grabs. I wouldn't necessarily count on winning, though. The chances are 1 in almost 300 million. But you do have at least a pretty good chance of doubling the money you spend on your ticket. The odds are about 1 in 38. So again, the drawing is tonight. You can buy your tickets until 8 p.m. And if you're not lucky tonight, you still have tomorrow's Powerball drawing. That jackpot is up to $384 million. Or maybe you'll win both for a combined total of $690 million. There is a chance that that could happen, but it's a teeny, teeny, tiny chance. Your odds of doing that are 1 in 4 quadrillion. Good luck. In Phoenix, Liz Kodalik, Fox 10 News.
Hey, Liz Kodalik, thanks so much for that. All right, look, I like this. I like how it looks. I'm sorry, but it's so wintry. It's, you know, they got the clouds. You've got a little bit of sun there on the side of the Capitol. You've got the leaves all without the trees without their leaves. That's what I meant to say. Sometimes we get tongue twisted here on the set. Hey, some interesting and sad news out of Missouri where we've learned that a caregiver has killed a 94-year-old woman.
According to our partners at the Post-Dispatch, the suspect in this case was found not guilty in a murder case 30 years ago. But tonight, he is behind bars facing another murder charge and armed criminal action. It was 54-year-old Tommy Coffer Jr.'s job to help take care of 94-year-old Geneva Richardson. According to Florissant police officer Steve Michael, at around 2 p.m. on December 18th, they got a call from Coffer and his mother, who also cared for Richardson, that they had found Richardson dead in her home.
It was determined that the victim had been stabbed and then blunt force trauma to the head. Investigation revealed that the victim was murdered on the evening of the 18th.
Michael says Coffer usually cared for Richardson weeknight evenings from 5 until 9. Investigators discovered that on the night that Richardson was killed, Coffer was picked up from her house by an Uber at around 6:45 p.m. Michael says Coffer, who lives in the 1300 block of Hudson Hills in Ferguson, was headed that way in the Uber and had several bags with him. He says Coffer instructed the Uber driver to stop in an area with vacant homes a few miles from his address and walked down the street with the bags. Investigators later discovered the bags in that spot.
And in those bags were discovered some purple latex gloves that resemble gloves at the victim's home, a ripped black t-shirt with bloodstains, in a blood-soaked pillowcase that had the pattern of another pillow at the victim's home.
Detectives also found several checks missing from Richardson's checkbook.
The defendant was in possession of 3 deposit receipts from recent bank deposits in an excess amount of $2,800.
Coffer was arrested on December 20th for murder in the second degree and armed criminal action. Michael credits detectives for working quickly and reminds family members to check on caregivers.
If you have family that are being taken care of by caregivers, you just be vigilant and make sure you keep up on them.
According to our partners at the Post-Dispatch, in 1995, Coffer was found not guilty in the murder of Gary Griggs, whose throat had been slashed. And in 1998, the family of the murder victim, Richard Spears, wanted to talk to Coffer after he had been seen with Spears before he was found dead in a car in a Schnucks parking lot on Jennings Station Road. According to our partners,
Hey everybody, I only have about an hour left in the 2017 year with you here on Fox News Now. Wrapping up my 4th week on the job. Hope you all think I'm doing well. Let me know. I do read your chat comments. I have them up right here on my computer screen. That's oftentimes why I'm looking over there. Anyway, I'm still not hearing what you all are planning on doing, but if you're in the northern part of the country, please do us all a favor and do your best to not just stay warm, but stay safe.
From Chicago, where officials are warning people to stay inside and off the roads, to Buffalo, where freezing temperatures have caused part of Lake Erie to freeze and ice to form around trees and benches, dozens of record lows have been set, and more are possible through at least New Year's Day.
We recommend avoiding any unnecessary trips outside. If the task can wait until the weather gets warmer, wait.
In the Windy City, 2 people have already died from hypothermia since a cold snap.
It remains a serious and potentially life-threatening event.
Emergency personnel and outreach workers hitting the streets as they make sure the most vulnerable are out of harm's way.
We get calls every day, and we're out there.
In New York overnight, about 170 firefighters battled flames and 15-degree temperatures, 12 people killed in an apartment building blaze. Those who escaped facing another life-threatening challenge, the bitter cold.
12 people tragically died here. 7 women, 5 men, 5 children, 7 adults. 4 other people remain hospitalized with critical injuries and are seriously fighting for their lives right now.
In the coming days, the South will also be shivering with lows predicted in the 20s. The deep freeze is expected to work its way into South Florida and leading the chance of snow for the South in the first week of 2018. In New York, I'm Fox News meteorologist Rick Reichmuth.
Hey Rick, thanks so much for that report. Well, sticking on the topic of lottery, lotto, Powerball, that sort of thing, we actually have a report of a waitress running out with a lotto ticket. Watch that together.
All right, guys, I got a large order.
Duck season. Sportsman packs this Stuttgart staple.
They're both really good, guys.
Leslie Underwood.
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Rarely sits down.
Okay.
But she got a break the Friday before Christmas.
Thanks.
To open a gift from her boss.
He always gets them, and he always wins.
Lucky lives up to his name. To spread some holiday cheer, he bought a roll of scratch-offs from G&B Liquor for his waitresses.
And he told us whatever we won, it would be split between us for our Christmas bonus.
Leslie back in the same seat where she scratched off the pile with coworker Mandy Van Houten.
And she split them. She handed me 5 and she had 5.
Mandy scratched off a $10 $300,000 fortune ticket and won the top prize. Since they worked the same shift, she and Leslie would each get $150,000.
We was both reading the back of it, trying to find the little, you're pranked. But no, it was a real one.
The trick was still to come.
We talked about how life-changing it would be and what we were going to do with this money. She even talked about giving back because it was such a blessing.
They were going to claim the money together in the new year.
She decided to take it and run.
Leslie saw this picture Wednesday, Mandy smiling with a check while she...
It's a little emotional.
The two have been best friends for nearly a decade.
I helped her get the job and put in a good word for her, stuck my neck out for her, let her stay with me so she didn't have to drive back and forth.
Leslie hasn't heard from Mandy. So we tried calling her and got the same thing.
Hey, it's me. Leave a message.
She never came into work for her shift this week.
When I said she's sick or something, she was like, it's a long story.
Haley Johnson typically works a different shift with another waitress. That duo didn't win as big.
We got a total of $10 on all the tickets.
Haley admits she first felt a pang of jealousy, but now she just wants Mandy to live up to the deal.
Things have been a little hectic around her since that happened.
The best burger in town, the best place to work, the home of the $300,000 winners. Leslie can't help but take a rare break and mull over a warning from her boss.
Lucky told us here at the bar, he was like, y'all won't be friends by the end of this. And we was like, why would you say that, Money changes people. Now we see.
Well, in Georgia, we are learning that some human remains were found in a suitcase. Just trying to catch you guys up to all the national headlines before we break and not see you again until 2018.
The gruesome discovery was made this afternoon. A trucker roaming the woods along I-75 and looking for cargo he lost stumbled across a suitcase. The Butts County Sheriff tells Fox 5 a human skull and other bones were discovered inside. The county coroner tells Fox 5 it's been there a while.
According to the ground and the suitcase,
This suitcase with the remains in it has been out here quite a while. Determination has not been made, but it appears to have been quite a while.
The location is just south of exit 205 in Butts County between State Road 16 and State Road 35. It was found adjacent to the southbound lanes of Interstate 75. Whoever put the luggage there would have had to walk it into the woods.
It's further than can be just dropped off. It appears that it was carried in.
The GBI is now on the case. Agents will take the suitcase and the remains to the medical examiner's office for further investigation. I-75 is, of course, a busy national corridor from north to south. The bones could have been brought from as far north as Michigan or as far south as central Florida. Or they could be from right here in North Georgia. The gruesome discovery.
All right, wasn't expecting that to restart so quickly there, everybody. Hey, it has not been all vacation time for President Donald Trump in Florida. We know that he's spending the holidays in Mar-a-Lago, but if you were watching Fox 10 Extra earlier today, which I have to remind you again, we air it on Channel 45 if you have rabbit ears or a digital antenna, cable Channel 9 from 10 a.m. to noon Arizona time, and usually Arizona is on Mountain Standard Time, but, you know, of course, according to daylight savings, that kind of depends, different types of year, you know, but Arizona's time never changes. We always stay the same. So, like I was saying, President Trump, actually, literally for about 10 seconds, I know, I don't like that word either, but during Extra today, they were telling us, the Fox, we call it, it's the way that Fox lets us know, like, what's coming out on the different live feeds from across the country. I'm not going to give you the journo lingo on it. But anyway, they were letting us know that they were going to give us some video of Donald Trump golfing with some U.S. Coast Guard members. So I quickly went to it during the show, and it was about 10 seconds long, and then I was like, oh no, I forgot where I was. So, yeah. But we know that he is for sure tweeting in Florida, and I have that story for you now.
President Trump was back in the public eye today for the first time since Christmas, meeting with members of the Coast Guard at his golf club in Florida. While the president had little to say at the tee, he had plenty to say this morning on Twitter, including addressing what's next for DACA. The president saying he won't deal with the Democrats on immigration without getting a border wall and an end to chain migration. Democrats chose not to make DACA a sticking point when the government was facing a shutdown earlier this month, but they have vowed to reach an agreement ahead of next month's funding deadline. Analysts say most Americans are hoping for a compromise.
Most Americans agree we need border security. We also need, most Americans agree that we need a compassionate approach to young people who came here through no fault of their own, not of their own volition.
Today, the president also took a swipe at the U.S. Post Office at the height of the agency's busiest season. President Trump said the post office is getting, quote, dumber and poorer compared to online retail giants like Amazon. Earlier this week, in an impromptu interview with the New York Times, the president said he believes special counsel Robert Mueller will be fair in the Russia investigation after publicly attacking the FBI and the Justice Department. He also laid blame on China for playing both sides in the growing tensions between the U.S. and North Korea. The president is expected to remain in Florida through the new year, returning when the Senate comes back into session. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
All right, Lauren, thanks so much for that report. So that just lets you know, regardless of where the president is, if it's a holiday break or not, we'll likely be hearing from him. And I think Twitter is the most easy way to do so. Hey, I have an update for a story now. If you remember, if you've been following us, if you watch us every day, we really appreciate it. We know that you regulars are out there, so I'm saying hello to you. Yesterday, when Ron Hoon and I started Fox 10 Extra in the morning, we had some breaking news out of Pinal County, Arizona. This is video of it from yesterday. We were not getting any information at first. We found out that Hunt Highway was closed by the Pinal County Public Works Department, and we didn't understand how or why. They just called it a traffic incident. So we were thinking that maybe somebody had hit some water infrastructure or there was flooding or something was going on, because we were like, well, why is Public Works announcing this? And then we got this Sky Fox video and determined that the Pinal County Sheriff's Office was on the scene. So we placed a call over there to them, and they just told us that something was under investigation. It wasn't very obvious. Of course, in this replay video, we're not showing you what we saw at the beginning of the Fox 10 Extra show yesterday. It was actually a body covered with a tarp. So again, we knew something was going on here. We weren't getting a whole lot of information. For those of you not familiar with Pinal County, it's about a 45-minute to an hour's drive away from Phoenix. I'm very familiar with the area. A lot of people are moving out to an unincorporated area called Santan Valley. Again, that's Santan Valley. A lot of people moving out there because it's kind of cheaper housing and it's new housing. And so, you know, people are getting some bang for their buck out there. So you can see all the housing in the area. So Hunt Highway is a major east and westbound thoroughfare. So when we heard about this closure yesterday morning, it was a big deal because it was a traffic situation. It was going to affect hundreds, if not thousands of people out that way. So finally, it took some time, but we did learn that a woman was hit and killed. And we were told that a Johnson Utilities worker was accused of hitting and killing her in his work vehicle or with his work vehicle. For a while, authorities were asking for help in identifying the woman, and they'd even put out some, I think it was a surveillance photo of her at a nearby gas station where she was last seen. So now we are just getting into the Fox News Now newsroom that the Pinal County Sheriff's Office has identified the victim, again, the woman who was hit and killed, as 24-year-old Des Ray S. Lara of Florence. Again, a 24-year-old woman named Des Ray S. Lara of Florence. They are saying thanks for your patience. So I guess a lot of people eager to find out who this young woman was. They say no other information will be released at this time. Definitely a story that we will keep our eye on here at Fox News Now. So yeah, some more sad news. I feel like, you know, at the beginning of the week, we were like, okay, well, it's the holiday week between Christmas and New Year, so we need to keep our eyes on the roads. We need to keep our eyes on the skies, you know, at the airports. We just need to be paying attention to all of the movement of everybody, holiday travelers, people going to and from. It was a little bit slower week, at least here in the Valley, in the Phoenix area, in terms of traffic. But there were still people working. You could definitely tell. It was just a little bit lighter than usual. But hey, I'm going to take you guys live to a gorgeous look at the White House. These live feeds, I really do. I admire them, love them. I'm not quite sure the proper term to use here, but I mean, they just look so different throughout the day. And depending on the angle of the sun, I mean, these images can look entirely different from day to day. So you may be like, oh, we're looking at the White House again. But look at the White House. I mean, you can see certain windows with lights coming out of them. You can see they still have the holiday wreaths hanging in the windows. You can see the string where the big, thick, heavy holiday garland, which was very green, was hanging from the top there, right behind the columns, and was dangling down to that lantern. No longer garland there, but you can still see the wires. And look, you can see the green lawn, and look at that fountain. It's on the bottom left of your screen there. The reason I took off what we call a graphic is so you can see that fountain. It's lit up. You can see the different color blue of the water there. And there's just so much happening in this. You can see the flag on the top of the White House waving, which means, you know, they probably have a little bit of a wind chill in DC. You can see the traffic lights. You can still see some holiday lights up in the trees. And yeah, so I like showing you guys these, like this next one. And you know why I've been showing you this shot all week, right? All week. Because they are preparing for New Year's Eve in Times Square. Have you been with us all week? If so, can you tell me how many people they are expecting out there? It's 1 million in Times Square alone. And I don't know the term for like the area around Times Square, but they're expecting an additional 1 million around Times Square. So if you don't make it in Times Square, but you're in the close vicinity, it's going to be another 1 million people. So in that total close area, there's going to be 2 million people. So if you're going out of that area, in or out, you know, please be safe, and just you know, be kind, be courteous, realize that everybody else is in the same boat with you. So, yeah. What are your New Year's plans? I keep asking you. Well, all this week, we have had different cities across the U.S. I believe we've had Boston, we've had New York, we've had San Francisco, and today, Austin, Texas, with their press conferences about New Year's Eve in general, their security plans, safety plans, and, you know, tips and tricks for Americans. So I'm going to show you the Austin Police Department press conference for New Year's Eve right now.
New Year's Eve safety. Obviously, this is something we plan for each year, along with a variety of events in Austin. We do expect an increase in people coming downtown to enjoy downtown Austin on New Year's Eve. And so because of that, you know, we have increased plans, increased our safety measures than what we have on a normal weekend. So we have an increase in the number of officers by hiring officers who are off to work overtime along 6th Street and along various routes where we'll have barricades set up. We have plans of personnel in place to deal with a variety of contingencies and emergencies. You know, those types of things are reported widely, you know, by you guys. You know what the threats are that we face with large events, and so we plan ahead for those, and we have contingencies in place for anyone that could occur. We're going to strengthen certain positions that we normally just have barricades at. We're going to have vehicles there in a variety of forms, just to make sure that we keep, you know, those areas where cars can't drive through. We ask people to not participate in celebratory gunfire. Every year we have people who are hit by rounds that go up, and if they go up, they have to come down. And so we ask, you know, people refrain from that. It is illegal. You can be arrested for it. You know, bad things can happen anytime you pull a pistol out, and especially if you pull it out and fire a round off, or more than one round. And so just know that when those rounds go up, they have to come back down. And so, you know, we'll be looking for that, and anyone caught doing that will be arrested for sure. Also, during New Year's Eve, we have a concern about DWIs. So it is a no refusal weekend, so that initiative is running. We ask, like we always do, that if you're going out partying and going out to have a good time and you're going to drink, to plan ahead. These days, there's no excuse for drinking and driving. There's so many options out there. I won't go into those, but everyone knows what they are. There are so many options out that you never have to drink and drive. There's always a way that you can get home, get your car later. It's not worth it. It's not worth putting yourself or others at risk. So please be smart about that. Any questions?
How hard is it to track down somebody after there is celebratory fire?
You know, it just depends on the circumstances. You know, it depends on who witnessed it, depends on where we are. You know, especially if you do it on 6th Street, you're most likely to be encountered by an officer soon after doing it. I mean, we have a large presence on 6th Street any weekend, but especially on New Year's Eve. And so, you know, so many things could go wrong when you pull a pistol out in a crowd in the first place. And especially if you crank off a round or more. So it just depends on where the person is and who witnesses what they do.
Has that been an issue in the past?
Last year on 6th Street, a lady was hit by a bullet from a person at, you know, the stroke of midnight, firing off some rounds, and it came down and struck a victim in the leg.
Do you have any plans to partner with AFD to write tickets for fireworks?
That's every year around July 4th and New Year's Eve. AFD handles that. They handle all the calls for fireworks violations, and they write those citations.
You know, after Vegas, do you guys plan on taking any other kind of precautions from elevated positions, things like that?
We always have those plans in place for events like this. I obviously can't talk about what our plans are, but just know that we do have plans in place to counter a situation such as that.
Can you talk more on the no refusal aspect of the weekend?
I'm not sure of the exact dates and times right now that it's run, but it'll start Saturday, and we'll go all the way through, you know, New Year's Eve. And so, like with all no refusal cases, when a person's arrested for DWI, they're given the option to do a breathalyzer or.
Hey everybody, I am going to put this on pause so we can restart it where we were later. There's only a couple minutes left, but I'm going to bring you some live images now. This is out of North Charlotte, North Carolina. We're being told that fire crews are on scene where smoke can be seen pouring out of a home that caught fire this morning. So not quite sure if this reignited or exactly what is going on, but again, these are live images, so viewer discretion is advised as always. It's a developing story. Don't quite have any information. Haven't heard anything so far about injuries or DAS, but again, this is in North Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, everybody, we do not have any information, but we like to bring you live images when we have them. This is from the Fox affiliate in Charlotte. We are being told that smoke can be seen pouring out of a home that caught fire this morning. So not quite sure if it was smoldering or it reignited on its own, but you can certainly see all the fire trucks there on scene. You can see the smoke in the background. Not quite sure how cold it is there. But if you are on the East Coast, we're being told this is North Charlotte. No sound is coming from these live images out of Charlotte. Just want to let you all know, no sound. Oh wait, there we go. It's just very faint. Let me see if I can get that louder. All right, everybody. Well, since we have very limited information on this, I am going to go back to the Austin Police Department New Year's Eve press conference. I know there's only about 2 minutes left, so I'm trying to cue it up in the exact same spot for you.
I think detectives will get a warrant to obtain that evidence, through a no refusal search warrant to get the blood that we need to test it to see what their level of intoxication is.
Even after even after 7-8 years of doing no refusal weekends, it still seems like, especially on New Year's when we get the numbers back from you guys, there's a huge number of people that refuse, and so you have to do a blood draw. Are you seeing that change, or I guess what would you tell folks if they find themselves in this situation?
Well, it's a person's individual right whether or not they want to give blood or give consent for breath or not. But regardless of what they choose to do, that procedure's been examined and ruled on, many times, and we continue to do it so that we make sure that we're collecting the evidence we need for prosecutions.
Is no refusal used more as a deterrent to prevent people from drinking and driving than it is about rounding up and netting drunk drivers?
That's our hope. Our hope is by people knowing that if they're stopped, their blood's going to be drawn, that it will prevent them from driving in the first place.
Last question. Good.
Austin's New Year?
Thank you.
Okay. But so, with I don't know if there's going to be thousands or if it's going to be 20 degrees out and there's going to be 50 people. But as far as Austin's New Year is concerned and the 4 different stages there, how are you all coordinating with the Center for Events to make
our special events unit has a plan in place for that. So all of our plans include that, and so we have extra security measures for that as well as 6th Street and the rest of downtown.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So you just heard the Austin Police Department's efforts for New Year's Eve. Have you ever been to Austin at all, or for New Year's Eve? You know, we're still getting to know each other, right? You know, I lived in Texas for a total of 5 years. Can you believe it? When I started my television news career, my first market was Beaumont, Texas, which is about 30 minutes away from Louisiana. It's in the Gulf of Mexico. I fell in love with Cajun food there. You ever had Cajun food? Like crawfish and boudin and etouffee and gumbo. Love me some Cajun food. So yeah, and then I also lived in El Paso, Texas, which the Sun Devils, my alma mater, they're playing in the Sun Bowl right now. But at last check, I don't know exactly how they're doing now. I haven't seen it, but the last time I asked somebody, they told me that the Sun Devils are losing. So I'm pretty sad about that. And then I spent the last 2.5 years in San Antonio, Texas. So I'm very familiar with pretty much the majority of Texas. And, you know, Austin's only about an hour 15, hour 30 drive north up Interstate 35 from San Antonio. So I visited 6th Street when I lived in San Antonio. That was interesting. I guess the closest version that Tempe, Arizona has, which is the home to Arizona State University, is Mill Avenue, if you had to compare the two. Yeah, and then I also visited Rainey Street there in Austin. So they certainly have a lot of opportunities for New Year's Eve celebrations in Austin, and they are just doing the same thing that other major cities are. They're just asking everybody to make smart choices and to do the best they can to prevent any incident that might harm themselves or others. So, hey, it might be a good idea for everybody to do the same, right? Well, hey, we have a really cool shot up. This is from our Fox affiliate in Orlando is the one that has this right now on their Facebook page. But this is just one of those cool things that you don't get to see very often, because normally when I show you New York City, I show you that same Times Square shot, right? Well, this is exactly where the stage is for the New Year's Eve party. And you can just see, I mean, how do you prepare for a major event like while tons of tourists and locals are walking around where you are doing that, like where you're setting up? I don't quite understand it. No audio from this video, but still very cool. Wanted to show it to y'all. So let's just keep looking at it for a little bit. What do you say? All right, everybody, I'm going to ask you for your opinion because we just have about roughly over a half hour left together in 2017. Can you believe it? Hey, do you want to see the replay of Al Franken's farewell to friends and supporters? Would you rather watch the Boston New Year's Eve preparations press conference? I'm asking you guys for your opinion here. Oh, hey, here we go. I have a story about money goals in 2018. Take a listen.
A new year is here, but 2017 brought out some old worries for most Americans. 62% of the country was stressed about money. That's according to a study by the American Psychological Association.
Overall, 2017 was a pretty good year. People had jobs, they had part-time work, they had full-time work. The unemployment rate was nice and low. Consumer confidence is nice and high. The stock market had a very good year. But people still have financial issues continuing to plague them, and they should attack these head-on in 2018.
Another study shows only a quarter of Americans include financial planning in their New Year's resolutions. Consumer expert Vera Gibbons says paying off credit card debt should be a top priority.
If you've got a credit card of $16,000 and you're revolving that month to month to month to month with a card of just under 15%, you're paying about $900 in interest every year. This interest is going to be much more expensive in 2018.
After all the holiday spending and self-gifting, Gibbons says it's time to reverse course and focus on saving.
If you look at the average savings rate, the personal savings rate, it's just under 3% right now, and financial planners will tell you you should really be trying to save 10 to 15% of your income. 3% personal savings rate is not good at all.
Don't let your emergency fund slip down the list of financial priorities. It should be treated differently from your savings.
If you perhaps got a bonus in the new year and are wondering what to do with that, you might want to ratchet up your, not only your 401k, but ratchet up your emergency savings fund as well. Pad it a little bit so that you're not inclined to actually put unexpected expenses on your credit card or find other ways to actually get out from under.
Only 8% achieved their New Year's resolutions, according to data from the University of Scranton. That means there is a 92% failure rate.
You want to make your financial resolutions doable, attainable. Don't make them so big that you're setting yourself up for failure.
After all, it's your cash. Tracy Carrasco, Fox Business.
Thanks so much, Tracy. Did they just say you're supposed to have 10 to 15% of your income saved? And then they said that your emergency fund is supposed to be separate from your savings. And I think I've always heard like an emergency fund is supposed to be like 3 months worth of pay. How are we supposed to keep track of all this, guys? And I used to work in banking. When I was going through college, I was a personal banker. Can you believe it? I can't keep track with all of it. Hey, one of the most major, definitely sad, devastating stories from overnight into this morning was the Bronx apartment fire that claimed the lives of 12 people. We know several of them. I believe 4 were children. Absolutely sad this time of year in particular. I mean, any time of year, news like this would be extremely difficult to hear. But this morning, authorities held a press conference. It's about 7-8 minutes long. And, you know, if you haven't heard what happened, it'll catch you up. And if you have, it'll kind of give you some additional details you haven't heard yet. So I'm going to air that for you all.
This loss is unprecedented.
A community in mourning after a fast-moving fire kills 12 people in this Bronx apartment building. The New York Fire Commissioner says it was started by a child who was playing with a stove.
Started from a young boy, 3.5 years old, playing with the burners on the stove.
The boy's mother heard him scream, saw the flames, and ran outside with him and his sister. The front door was left open, and that caused the fire to quickly spread.
Fire travels up. The stairway acted like a chimney. It took the fire so quickly upstairs that people had very little time to react. They couldn't get back down the stairs.
They couldn't escape. It was just 2 people, my sister and the baby, 8 months old. The smoke, I guess, overcame her. Everything happened so quick.
Other residents were forced onto the fire escape, waiting for help.
You say you were on the fire escape for half an hour?
Yeah, on top. Why? Because even though the firemen were there, but they put the ladder, you know, we are in the 3rd floor, they have to take the kids one after the other.
Literally screaming, and that's how we knew it was trouble, because people were screaming, fire, help, fire, help. We knew it was trouble.
But even after escaping safely, survivors faced another life-threatening challenge, the bitter cold. Many of them had no coats. One man ran out in his long johns with no socks or shoes.
It is the time of year where people celebrate, and certainly here we have people who've lost their lives, lost their homes, lost everything.
In New York, Rich Dennison, Fox News.
Hi. Want to talk about a technical error there. I didn't expect to come back on camera. Here I am waiting for the next video to come up, and it's not coming up. It's not coming up. Hey, I doubt you're a first timer here to Fox News Now, but in the afternoons I get to have a little bit more fun with you guys than I get to have during Fox 10 Extra. So yeah, did you know that we're called digital journalists, and we control the show. We control what you're watching. So I'm gonna pull up some different camera shots here. This is the News Now set. If I were to turn around here, oh, there you are. So behind me, what always looks like as behind me to you, but it's really to my right over here, that's the Fox 10 Phoenix newsroom. Get to see that. Cool. And then here is the rest of the News Now set. Hi again. So you can expect to see, you know, some technical difficulties, right? I mean, from time to time, you never know. Again, let me show you. There we go. That's the shot behind me here. See it? Cool, huh? Right? And then let me show you the other one. It's the rest of the set. Hi. Cool. See, it's the magic here that I'm not allowed to show during Extra, which makes sense because it is a show where we let everybody know the latest news and things that are happening. But yeah, I was laughing at myself right now because I was waiting here for the other video to come up and it didn't come up. So I figured you guys were laughing at me too, right? If you can't laugh at yourself, you know, you're never gonna have fun. Okay, so I told you guys that I was gonna be airing the New York City fire press conference from this morning, and that's not what aired. Instead, it was a story from a reporter out there. So I do have that for you, and that's what I was waiting to air. So let's play that now.
All set. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, let me just say that last night's tragic fire, other than 9/11, was the worst loss of life from fire in our city in almost 28 years. The Happy Land fire, which occurred in 1990. So we're in the midst right now of the worst month for loss of life in our city for fire in the past 10 years. 12 people tragically died here. 7 women, 5 men, 5 children, 7 adults. 4 other people remain hospitalized with critical injuries and are seriously fighting for their lives right now. So this fire is, I said last night, historic. It certainly is in our city to have a loss of life like this. Fire marshals have been here all night trying to determine the cause, and they have determined it. And we found that this fire started in the kitchen on the first floor. It started from a young boy, 3.5 years old, playing with the burners on the stove. The fire got started. The mother was not aware of it, was alerted by the young man screaming. She exited her apartment with her 2-year-old and 3-year-old and left the door open. So this fire quickly spread up the stairs. Fire travels up. The stairway acted like a chimney. It took the fire so quickly upstairs that people had very little time to react. They couldn't get back down the stairs. Those that tried, a few of them perished. Others escaped, were helped out onto the fire escapes, were taken down by our members. So although our members got here in a little over 3 minutes and bravely entered the building and did everything they could, and did save a number of residents, this loss is unprecedented. It is the time of year where people celebrate, and certainly here we have people who've lost their lives, lost their homes, lost everything, and we grieve with them as everyone in this city should and does at this terrible time. Again, the lessons here of children left unattended. The mother was in the apartment, but certainly not in close proximity to this young boy. How dangerous this can be. And also, you've seen the ads, close the door, close the door, close the door. If unfortunately you do have a fire in your apartment, you must close the door when you exit, because the results, if you don't, are what happened here last night. And it's just it saddens our entire department this time of year that our members are carrying out folks, and including young children. So that's the message we have this morning.
Did all the apartments in the building have fire alarms installed?
Well, I'm sure they all had them installed. Whether they were all working at the time, we're still determining that, so we don't know.
What about the first floor apartment where the child was playing?
Still, I still don't have that information about the smoke alarms.
Who made the initial 911 call, and how long was the fire from the initial box to the under control time?
I don't know where the call came from. How long was the... I don't understand the question.
Just how long did the fire...
Response time?
Response time was a little over 3 minutes, from the time of the call to the time our units arrived at the scene.
And how long was the fire going for?
At that
time out was 1851, to under control 2110.
After we got here, it was a few hours before it was put under control, but you know, most of the deaths occurred very early in the operation. Some of them before we even arrived.
Can you clarify
the age and the structure of the building, did that play a role in how quickly the fire spread?
Well, fire spreads up the open stairway. That certainly happens. There's nothing structurally about the building that's unusual that would contribute to it, other than the fact that, like I say, the stairway, if fire enters a hall, open stairs act as chimneys. Fire seeks air. People open their windows to get out onto the fire escapes, and it creates this this condition where it brings the fire up the stairs and into their apartments.
So did victims ever get out of their apartments?
Some of them did. There was as many as 20 people out on the fire escape when our units arrived. But some of them, there were 5 people pronounced dead in this building. Some of them did not get out of the building.
Commissioner, can you talk about the report of the baby being wrapped up in the fire?
I can tell you that of the 5 people that were pronounced dead in the building that never were transported to the hospital, one of them was a young child. That I can tell you. That we don't have information on yet, but we were told the boy had a history of playing with the burners and turning them on, and before the mother knew it, this fire had gotten a good hold in the kitchen. She said it was a lot of fire, a lot of smoke, grabbed the children and ran out.
Can you clarify for us why it is that the people were not able to get out, the people who died, sir, why they couldn't get out?
Well, as the fire travels up the stairs, that would be people's first inclination is generally to leave the way they come in. Some people came out of their apartment and were faced with this fire. Others had to go back in, seek another way out, maybe were overcome by smoke. It was a combination of smoke that killed people and
Last
burns.
question. Do you have any residents living in the building?
I believe there were 25 apartments in the building. I don't know the number of residents. We're not still searching the building. The searches were completed last night. Everyone has been accounted for.
Thank you, sir. Would you characterize the cause as rare in your experience? Have you seen this?
Forgot to turn on my mic again. Anyways, all right, everybody. We had some interesting video come out of the, I guess it's the Phoenix area. It's between Phoenix and Tucson, for those of you familiar with Arizona. Tucson is southern Arizona. So I want to show that to you really quick. All right. I am being told, I'm going to call this a top story, everybody. I am being told by the Pinal County Sheriff's Office that at just after 11 this morning they received a call about an accident at the Ostrich Farm at Interstate 10 and mile marker 220. So again, this is between Phoenix and Tucson. Actually, if you're very familiar with Arizona, I'm going to be honest with you, it's the Picacho Peak area. So closer to Tucson than it is Phoenix. The crash occurred inside the Ostrich Farm property during a tourist ride in the business monster truck. 12 people were injured here, everybody. 12 people injured, 3 taken to the hospital by, they were flown there. They were taken there by helicopter. Cause still under investigation. So Yeah, very sad news out of Arizona this afternoon. Again, all unfolding around just after 11 this morning at the Ostrich Farm on Interstate 10 and mile marker 220. The crash occurred on the Ostrich Farm's property during a tourist ride in the business's monster truck. 12 people injured, 3 were flown to the hospital. Not quite sure if the 3 were part of the 12 or if the 3 were additional, because that would make it 15 people injured. So I'm going to, don't quote me on this, but based off of the information we've already been given, I'm going to believe that 12 people total, but 3 of them had to be flown. Again, the cause is still under investigation. All right, let's take you back to Times Square where they're setting everything up for the New Year's Eve party. Hey, if you're not going to be in New York City for New Year's Eve, are you planning on at least watching the crystal ball drop on television? That might be kind of cool, right? Hey, I'm gonna show you guys where I'm at right now. Take a look at this. Now, I never know exactly which mountain these cameras are on, but there's a reason I have that lower third down. Remember, somebody corrected me earlier and called that a lower third. I wanted to show you, you know, the bottom of the screen there. It's important. But look at how blue our skies are here in the Phoenix area, and we're called the Valley for a reason. You've got the mountains dead ahead there, and you can see just how expansive, how sprawled out the Phoenix area is. You know, I am a Phoenix native. I grew up in a suburb of Phoenix, and you know, when I was a kid, the suburbs of Phoenix were all separated. And when I'm talking about suburbs, I mean like Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert, Mesa, Scottsdale, Glendale. You know, it was all like spread out. Like it was very, you could tell when you were driving from the different communities that there was like, you know, empty spaces and you were between a community. And, you know, I just finished telling you guys I lived in Texas for 5 years. So every time I came out here, I felt like Phoenix just kept booming. Like it just kept growing. And now everything's kind of this big, you know, cluster. And yeah, so Phoenix area definitely growing. When you hear and see those reports that it is, I believe it. I can tell you that much. I'm working to get another story up for you guys, so here we go. Let's take a look at the Rose Parade. What do you say?
We're inside one of the warehouses where some of these amazing floats are being built from scratch. Each year, the Rose Parade is one of the largest events to take place on New Year's Day. And law enforcement says they're...
All right, everybody, we have some audio issues with this Rose Parade story, so let's see if it pans out here.
More than 1 million people every year into the heart of Pasadena. Police acknowledge it's always a target for terrorists. This year, they'll be closing down roads along the parade route to car traffic at 10 p.m. on New Year's Eve, earlier than ever before.
We have certain things in place where, you know, something simple as removing newspaper stands or creating water barriers to prevent vehicle incursions.
Security experts add the police do the best they can, but they can't be everywhere at once.
Law enforcement is limited with the amount of manpower they have. You can't take all 10,000 uniformed LAPD officers and put them at that Rose Parade, and that's the end of it. These guys have to be all over LA.
And the LAPD will be watching closely over local landmarks, including LAX, one of the nation's busiest airports and a target of past terror attacks. But behind the scenes, where volunteers are putting the finishing touches on the majestic floats, they're keeping their focus on making the parade picture perfect.
We have the police come through or security come through, bomb-sniffing dogs, all of these things. It doesn't faze us.
I think it's the tradition of the parade. I think that overcomes, that's the American spirit about coming and celebrating and being involved with this parade.
Right now, there is no credible threat against the parade. Federal authorities like the FBI, the Secret Service.
All right, everybody, not quite sure what was the audio issue there. Her, what we call an intro and tag, something was wrong with it, but the reporter track was fine. Excuse me, I have been talking so much these past few weeks that I may be losing my voice here or getting a little stuffy. So Sorry about that. Hey, I'm asking you guys on the chat, because, you know, I do respond, what your plans are for New Year's Eve. In the meantime, my favorite live shots from across the country are now dark. You ready? Remember, I love showing these to you guys. Look at the White House. So much different from the last time I showed it to you, right? Very cool, though. Very cool to see. Have you ever been to D.C.? Do you live in the D.C. area? I have a family member who lives out that way, but I've only been out there once, and I was in 3rd grade. So it's been a very long time. Would certainly be honored to get out there again. My dad is a Vietnam veteran, so it was kind of hard as a child to see him at the Vietnam Memorial. But you know, big thanks to all of our veterans out there, people who have served or are currently serving. We certainly appreciate it. Let's take a look at our nation's capital. There you go. That's another evening look. What do you think? Tell me your thoughts when you see these pictures, when you see these images. Infamous Times Square. They did a, ooh, is it snowing? I see something dropping there, and I don't think it's a confetti test. They had one of those earlier today. I don't think that's what that is. All right, everybody. Well, when we started this stream, we were watching what San Francisco was planning on doing for New Year's Eve, and we kind of had to stop mid press conference because, well, to go to other breaking news. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that back up for you, kind of about where we left off.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. Good morning, everybody. Bill Scott, Chief of Police for San Francisco PD. I want to reemphasize several of the things that Mayor Breed said in terms of our efforts to keep our public safe during the New Year's Eve celebrations. Well, first of all, it's important for everyone to know that the safety of our city is our top priority. There are no known credible threats to the city. However, we know that anytime there's large events with a large amount of people, we always have to provide additional police support, additional collaboration or better collaboration with all of our local, state, and federal partners in order to ensure public safety. With us in the San Francisco PD, we're starting with there will be no discretionary time off for our SFPD officers, so we will be very, very heavily deployed on New Year's Eve. We will have sufficient resources to staff both special events and provide police services at all of our district stations. We have additional resources available to handle any spontaneous events that may occur. We're also working, as I said, with our state, local, and federal partners to make sure that our New Year's Eve is as a safe event as we can make it. Our San Francisco Sheriff's Department, our fire department that you'll hear from shortly with Chief Hayes White, our Department of Emergency Management, the dispatchers, the Department of Public Works, the San Francisco MTA, the Department of Public Health, the California Highway Patrol, and the U.S. Coast Guard will all be working with us to provide safety for our city. And in addition to that, our federal partners, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security are also on our team. So with that, you will see a very heavy, visible police and law enforcement presence at the usual events where people gather to celebrate. That's the Embarcadero, Broadway Corridor, Union Street, Cow Hollow, and the other places that Mayor Breed mentioned. There will also be a very visible presence along the Wharf area and Pier 39. Now, we all know that there was an incident last week with an arrest with a person that made some remarks about an attack on Pier 39. We want the public to know, again, that there are no credible threats. And it's important that they see officers out there, but there will also be officers out there that you won't see, that you will not see, because we will have a plainclothes presence there as well to make sure that we can detect things when people don't know that we're there. So that'll be part of our plan as well. Officers will be patrolling on foot, in cars, bicycles, motorcycles, including our Hondas and our traffic bikes. We also have our Marine unit that will be on the water side. And I mentioned that the Coast Guard will be in collaboration with us for our water side deployment and security. The department's alcohol liaison unit will also be out checking venues along with state ABC. Now, we have to have the public's assistance to keep our New Year's Eve safe. We can't do this by ourselves. This is not just a public safety lift. This is a public partnership and collaboration, so we need the public's assistance. And Mayor Breed has already mentioned some things that we all can do to keep ourselves safe. It's senseless to lose any lives to drunk driving when there's free transportation. It's senseless to have our loved ones have body parts blown off for irresponsible use of fireworks. And I know Chief Hayes White will talk a little bit about that. But also, if you see something, say something. Call 911. DEM has set up a text message system, an alert system, in order for our residents and our visitors to text in clues and messages if they see something that they don't think is right. And I'm going to read the text line for the public. If you text SFNYE 17 and then text 888-777, you will get alerts and you can send messages in terms of if you see something that doesn't look right. Now, of course, our purpose is public safety, and sometimes.
All right, everybody, the audio in that recorded press conference from earlier wasn't the best. So, hey, we had a list of our top streams of this year. We keep saying 2017, 2018. It's our top streams of this year here on Fox News Now. So I'm going to say farewell to you now, but we're not stopping the stream. I'm going to air another of the top streams of 2017 for you in order to wrap up this day here, because that's our last day together here in 2017, right? Okay, so this one I need to look for reference because I wasn't here. So this one we aired in February. Okay, were you watching Fox News Now in February? I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. Milo Yiannopoulos. And he resigned from Breitbart Tech after coming under fire from other conservatives over comments on sexual relationships between boys and older men. Do you guys remember this? Did you watch this when we aired it live? Had just about 727,000 views. So of our total list here, remember, I'm doing this all at once. This was number 6 for the year. Okay, number 6. So I'm going to air that for you all.
I'm a gay man and a child abuse victim. Between the ages of 13 and 16, 2 men touched me in ways they should not have. One of those men was a priest. My relationship with my abusers is complicated by the fact that at the time, I didn't perceive what was happening as abusive. But I can look back now and see that it was. I still don't view myself as a victim, but clearly I am one. Looking back, I see the effects that this had on me. In the years after what happened, I fell into alcohol and nihilistic partying. It lasted well into my 20s. A few years ago, I realized it was time to do something good with my life. I started focusing on work, but the black comedy, the gallows humor, and the love of shock value I developed in my 20s never really went away. I've reviewed the tapes that appeared a few days ago in the proper context, and I don't believe that they say what is being reported. Nonetheless, I do say some things on the tapes that I do not mean and which do not reflect my views. My experiences as a victim led me to believe that I could say almost anything on this subject, no matter how outrageous. But I understand that my usual blend of sassy, gay British sarcasm, provocation, and gallows humor might have come across as flippancy. A lack of care for other victims, or even worse, as seems to have been the case in reports, advocacy. I'm horrified by that impression. I would like to restate my disgust at adults who sexually abuse minors. I'm horrified by pedophilia, and I have devoted large portions of my career to exposing child abusers. I've exposed 3 of them in my reporting, which is 3 more than most of my critics. I've repeatedly expressed disgust at pedophilia in my feature and opinion writing, and I was also the first journalist in the UK to ask, after Jimmy Savile's death, whether the real story of his rampant child abuse would ever be told. My professional record is very, very clear. But I do understand that the videos that you have seen, even though some of them were deceptively edited, paint a different picture, and I am partly to blame for that. I do not advocate for illegal behavior. I explicitly say in the tapes, in a section that was cut from the footage that you've seen, but I think the age of consent currently is about right. I do not believe that any change in the legal age of consent is justifiable or desirable. I don't believe that sex with 13-year-olds is okay. When I mentioned the number 13, I was talking about myself and the age that I lost my virginity. It can strike some Americans as unusual or strange, but my mother's native Germany, the age of consent is 14. We have a different approach to these things sometimes in Europe. I shouldn't have used the word boy. Gay men often use boy or girl to mean men of consenting age. But I understand how heterosexual people may not have realized that, and that was an error. I was in fact talking about my own relationship when I was 17 with a man who was 29. The age of consent in the UK is 16. I did say that there are relationships between older gay men and younger gay men that can help the younger gay man escape from a lack of support or understanding at home. That's perfectly true, and every gay man knows it. I'm certainly guilty of imprecise language, which I regret. And anyone who suggests, however, that I turn a blind eye to illegal activity or to the abuse of minors is unequivocally wrong. I'm implacably opposed to the normalization of pedophilia, and I will continue to report and speak accordingly. To repeat, I do not support child abuse. It's a disgusting crime of which I have personally been a victim. The remarks I made on podcasts and interviews more than a year ago were about my personal life experiences, but I didn't make that clear. I will not apologize for dealing with my life experiences in the way that I choose to, which is through humor and provocation. No one can tell me or anyone else who has lived through these experiences how they should best deal with those emotions. But I am sorry to other abuse victims who may have interpreted what I said as flippant or uncaring if my own personal way of dealing with what happened to me has hurt you. I will never stop making jokes about taboo subjects. Go into any drag bar or gay club and you will hear joke after joke after joke about clerical sexual abuse. I'm not afforded the same freedom to make those kinds of jokes because the media chooses to selectively define me as a political figure in some circumstances and a comedian in others. And also, of course, because I'm a conservative. But I said some things on those internet live streams that were simply wrong. My employer, Breitbart News, has stood by me while others caved. They've allowed me to carry conservative and libertarian ideas to communities that would otherwise never have had them. They have been a significant factor in my success, and I'm grateful for the freedom and for the friendships that I forged there. But I would be wrong to allow my poor choice of words to detract from my colleague's important job, which is why today I'm resigning from Breitbart effective immediately. This decision is mine alone. When your friends have done right by you, it's only right to do right by them. And for me, that means stepping aside so my colleagues at Breitbart can get back to the great work they do. My book, Dangerous, has received interest from other publishers after my previous publisher, Simon & Schuster, informed me they no longer wish to release it. The book will come out this year as planned, with perhaps an additional chapter. I'll be donating 10% of my royalties to child sex abuse charities. I haven't ever apologized before, and I don't anticipate ever doing it again. Name-calling doesn't bother me, and misreporting doesn't bother me. But to be a victim of child abuse, and at the same time be accused of being an apologist for child abuse, is absurd. I regret the things that I said. I don't think I've been as sorry about anything my whole life, and this isn't how I wanted my parents to find out about this either. But let's be clear about what's happening here. This is a cynical media witch hunt from people who do not care about children. They care about destroying me and my career, and by extension, my allies. They know that although I made some outrageous statements, I've never actually done anything wrong. They held this story back. They held the footage back, footage that's been out there in the wild for over a year, because they don't care about victims. They don't care about children. They only care about bringing me down. They will fail. I will, in the next couple of weeks, be announcing a new independently funded media venture of my own, and a live tour in the coming weeks, and new campus tour dates, part of my new Troll Academy tour. I started my career as a technology reporter who wrote about politics, but I have since mutated and grown into something quite different and much bigger. I'm now a performer with millions of fans in America and beyond. I'm grateful for the tens of thousands of messages that I have received. And I look forward to making you all laugh, cry, and think for many, many decades to come. My full focus is now going to be on entertaining and educating everyone, left, right, and otherwise. If you want to brand or stereotype me, good luck with that. Don't think for a moment that anything that has happened in the last 48 hours will ever stop me being as offensive, provocative, and outrageously funny as I choose on any subject I please. America has a colossal free speech problem. The land of the First Amendment has some of the most oppressive social restrictions on free expression anywhere in the Western world. I'm proud to be a warrior for free speech and creative expression, and I want everyone in America to have the right to do, be, say, read anything. I want people to be able to dress however they want. I want people to be able to play whatever video games they want. I want people to realize their potential and have the full limits of creative expression available to them. That isn't currently the case in America. America is the country I love. America is a country that has taken me in. Its people have taken me in, and I'm very grateful for that. I am proud to be a free speech warrior in America, and I will continue to do that. I'm not going anywhere. Thank you very much. I will take perhaps 5 questions.
Milo.
Yeah.
So, in an interview you did with Nightline with us at ABC, you said you never say anything you don't believe.
Yes.
So what you said in that podcast, do you believe that? And what exactly is this about? Is this an apology? Is this about you? Or is it about that you no longer have a book deal and you no longer are speaking at CPAC?
This is about me apologizing for saying things I did not mean. This is me apologizing to other victims of abuse for comments that may be perceived by them as insensitive or flippant.